Welcome to Lisbon, the capital of Portugal. How do you spend 5 days in Lisbon if this is your first visit? I already visited Lisbon twice, I'm not gonna lie. On my first visit in 2023, after a month-long stay in the Algarve, I was a bit tired of visiting and sightseeing, so I had no energy to explore. So back then, I did a lot of walking in the central area of Lisbon, which wasn't exactly my vibe. Ever since, I had the impression that Lisbon is a bit overrated, crowded with tourists, and to be honest, a bit dirty. All this happened after the pandemic, so people were hysterically traveling all around Portugal. Lucky for me, I decided to give Lisbon another shot. And that was because it was the most affordable place in Europe I could fly into coming from South America. So I decided to fly with TAP Portugal from Fortaleza, Brazil to Lisbon, Portugal. By the way, this is one of the easiest ways to go between South America and Europe, given that it's only a direct 7-hour flight. The thing is that most of us don't really realize just how far away South America really is. But now let's get back to the story of how I landed in Portugal for the second time. Because this time was a lot more exciting, I wanted to share with you some of the coolest places to visit if you have 5 days to spend in Lisbon, Portugal. This is a combination of popular spots, some less popular spots, sprinkled with my personal tips to make the entire experience unforgettable. So let's dig in. I will start by saying that this first part can be an entire day's itinerary in Lisbon if you wake up early and prepare with all the necessary tickets in advance. Remember that Lisbon is quite popular and some spots are often sold out for the day, so that's why it's best to get your tickets online before you get there. Also, it doesn't matter where you're staying in Lisbon, the public transport is really good. They have train, metro, buses, trams, and you can use them to go virtually anywhere in and around Lisbon. So, transport should not be a problem. Now, for the first day in Lisbon, I recommend checking out the famous Belem area. The Belem Tower is our first stop, and it's a pretty cool place to visit in Lisbon, as you will see this spot on a lot of postcards and iconic pictures from Lisbon. By the way, the best time to visit this place from my personal experience is mid-May, when all the jacarandas trees are in bloom. Those are the trees with the purple flowers, and they just make up for the most magical setting. The Belem Tower, or the Torre de Belem, is one of Lisbon's most iconic landmarks, and you will find it on the shore of the Tagus River. It was built in the early 16th century as a defensive fortification, and is a prime example of the Manueline architectural style, which incorporates both Moorish and Venetian element. Now, this place today is quite popular, it's full of tourists whenever you go, because it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and you can go up the tower to enjoy panoramic views. It is very popular, but very crowded. So if you want to visit, you need to pre-book your ticket online. However, if the crowds aren't your thing, as they're not for me, then you can simply go to the tower to observe the views and the tower. Then you could walk back on the shore towards the city because there's a better spot to visit and see the tower. Just about 10 minutes away from the popular Belem Tower is the Monument to the Discoveries. The monument is also known as Padrão dos Descobrimentos in Portuguese, and it is an imposing structure located also on the banks of Tagus River. It was erected in 1960 to commemorate the 500th anniversary of the death of Henry the Navigator. The monument celebrates Portugal's age of exploration during the 15th and 16th centuries. But what you will probably love most about this monument, as I did, is its rooftop, from where you will get the ultimate panoramic view of all the surrounding area, including the Belem Tower, the river, and the famous Jeronimos Monastery, which is another huge attraction in the area in Lisbon. This is undoubtedly the most popular attraction in Lisbon, and it is a gorgeous monastery and a must-see place in the capital of Portugal. The thing is that a lot of people want to visit this place, so it will always be crowded. The rule is to get your ticket online and then go at the monastery and just wait in the queue, because there will be some waiting, on average about 2 hours. Monastery is a great example of Manueline architecture. It was also built in the 16th century, and it was originally intended to commemorate Vasco da Gama's successful voyage to India, and served as a spiritual and physical place of rest for sailors embarking on treacherous voyages. It was designed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's not just an architectural marvel, but also a place of significant history and of cultural importance to Portugal. And while all that sounds amazing, everyone wants to see the inside. You'll need to get a ticket for that. But if you want to wait less and don't spend any money, there are 2 queues in front of the monastery. One is for the church, one is for the monastery. But the church is free to visit, so the queue moves a lot faster. After all this visiting, you must be hungry. The next spot that I recommend visiting is the internet legend Pastéis de Belem pastry shop, or restaurant nowadays. This place is, as the internet put it, the best place in Lisbon to eat their famous pastry, the Pastel de nata. This is a family pastry shop with a long tradition, and today feels almost like a pilgrimage spot for all the foodies of Europe. Of course, you cannot miss it because it's only 2 minutes away from the monastery, so basically you're already there. As you arrive, you'll see a huge crowd of people, so just follow the people to get there. And once you get in front of the restaurant, you see that there are actually 2 separate queues. Now, most people are waiting for takeaway pastries, but that queue seemed to me like it was taking a long time, and I was pretty tired at this point. So what I do recommend is go wait in the queue for the table, because this spot is now extra popular. The restaurant expanded over time, and once you step inside, you'll see what I'm talking about. I visited in the late afternoon, and the lunchtime was over. So a lot of people were just there just to have a snack, a late afternoon snack. So you can also get some food if you're hungry, or even a beer. Anyway, it seemed that even locals like this place a lot, and it also seemed mandatory to have at least 2 pastels de nata per person while ordering some other things too. And it is customary, well, optional for you, if you want to sprinkle your pastel with cinnamon and maybe sugar. Now that you tasted the famous custard tart of Portugal, the famous pastel de nata, get ready to move a muscle and continue walking on the streets of Lisbon. We will continue towards the pedestrian walkway along the Tagus River. I recommend going on the Pedestrian Passage over the MAT Museum, the Museum of Art, Architecture and Technology. This platform offers a breathtaking view over the Tagus River, the 25 April Bridge, and the Sanctuary of Christ the King, which is on the other shore of the river. By the way, if you have extra days in Lisbon, you should get a bus or a taxi to that statue of Christ and climb up to the platform. The views are phenomenal, and it's less crowded than other places in the city, and it is cheaper to visit. So it's definitely one of the coolest places to visit in Lisbon, because not a lot of tourists go to visit it. But now, back to our walk. After visiting this modern platform with great views, I suggest continue walking towards the 25 April bridge. On the walk there, you will have again amazing views, and under the bridge is a nice and cool area of bars and restaurants, mostly focused on seafood. If the weather allows it, you can eat your dinner outside, or you can at least stay for a drink. How to spend your second day in Lisbon. This second day we will dedicate it to the central part of Lisbon, and we will start with the famous Alfama neighborhood. In this famous neighborhood, you will find between all the cute buildings, tasty ice cream shops, and dreadful stairs, the São Jorge Castle, which is obviously located on the top of the hill. This Moorish castle is a popular spot in Lisbon, and you cannot dismiss it because it has some of the most amazing views in the city. After you admire and take plenty of pictures of the views, please take a moment to observe the gorgeous peacocks running around. I mean, this place felt like a fairy tale. After you are done with the castle, we will continue towards downtown Lisbon. This is the very center of Lisbon, where you can admire the avenues and the architecture, have a look at the popular Santa Justa lift, and then walk up to the Arco da Rua Augusta and the Plaza de Comercio. That's just after the arch. Note that some wait forever in line to ride the popular lift, however you can walk to get to the top and enjoy the views. The walk is just behind the lift and is free, unlike the lift. After you do some shopping, I recommend exploring the Rosario Square. This is a popular place to hang out. Even locals come here to hang around. It's also a popular square for small fairs and seasonal celebrations, so there's a big chance that it's something happening by the time you visit it. After all this exploring and walking around, I recommend ending the day with a traditional fado concert. There are many small venues offering this experience, and some may include a drink or even a snack, but you may need to book your spot in advance. Attending a live fado concert in Lisbon is an immersive experience that plunges you into the emotional landscape of Portuguese culture. Typically held in an intimate, candlelit venues called fado houses, often located in the historic Alfama district, but also right here in the downtown area. The atmosphere is thick with anticipation as the audience quiets down for the performance. A singer, or sometimes more than one, is accompanied by musicians playing the Portuguese guitar, which captivates the room with soul-stirring melodies that speak of love, lost, and saudade, a unique Portuguese term for a deep emotional state of nostalgic longing. The whole experience becomes not just a night of music, but also a profound journey through the Portuguese soul, leaving you with a tasting impression of Lisbon's rich cultural tapestry. And for the third day in Lisbon, I recommend stepping a bit outside the center and the very touristy spots. And let's head out to the eastern coast, which feels a bit more airy than other parts more crowded in Lisbon. For this day, I recommend visiting the Park of the Nation or the Expo Park. You can easily reach this part of the city by taking the metro up to the Moscovite metro station and then walk towards the coastline. I tend to like less crowded places, so I really enjoyed walking around the walkway near the Vasco da Gama Tower. And this is our first stop. The tower is a recent addition to the list of attractions in Lisbon and offers a panoramic platform at the top. When I visited, it seemed that it was nobody there, or at least there was no queue, and it was open. The entire area offers great views over the iconic bridge in Lisbon. After you visit the tower, I recommend going towards the cable car in Lisbon because here you should get the combo ticket that includes a round trip and the entrance ticket for the aquarium of Lisbon. The cable car ride was gorgeous and it goes slow, so you can really enjoy it and soak in the views. I loved that and had plenty of time to take lots of pictures. There are only 2 stops for the cable car, so it's mostly a joyride, but a gorgeous one nevertheless. Note that it only works during the day, so keep the schedule in mind if you plan on returning with the cable car. After stepping off the cable car, the entrance to the aquarium is just a minute away. I enjoyed walking around the area around the aquarium. The architecture is nice and so photo-worthy. I also really enjoyed the fountain that I found in front of the aquarium. I recommend to get the combo ticket offered at the cable car office because it also includes the entrance for the aquarium, and by the time you get to the aquarium you will already have your ticket and you will not have to wait in the queue to buy a ticket. Remember that the aquarium is a popular place for everybody, for school groups, for adults, for tourists, so the queue can take a while if you get stuck with a bunch of groups at the entrance. After entering the aquarium, there is a preset walking route that will take you through all the different parts of the aquarium. This is a massive aquarium. I could spend hours just staring at it. It was truly impressive. After your visit, I recommend stopping at the restaurant downstairs if you want to have a snack or a meal. We will dedicate the 4th day in Sintra, which is the famous and popular town located just outside of Lisbon. This town is easily accessible from the center of Lisbon by train. You can simply show up at the train station and just buy a round-trip ticket for Sintra. The train leaves every hour or so, and the trip takes under 1 hour. Sintra is a very nice town where you will find plenty of cute cafes, restaurants, and even hotels. You can easily spend more than a day here. In fact, if you have more than 5 days, I would recommend spending 2 days in Sintra. I mean, if you wanted to visit all the palaces around here, then you would need at least 2 to 3 days to explore them all. But if you only have time for a day trip from Lisbon, then you can visit 2 palaces in a day. And if you plan your trip accordingly and buy your tickets ahead of time and start early in the morning, all of this is possible. The 2 palaces that I recommend visiting in Sintra are the Pena Palace and the Palace of Montserrat. The National Palace of Pena is the most famous palace in Sintra, and it's often mistaken for the Sintra Palace. This building is emblematic for Lisbon and Portugal in general, as many online services use the images of Pena Palace to advertise a trip to Lisbon. Some say that this is the palace that inspired Walt Disney to create his famous logo. However, I believe that to be a myth, since there are multiple palaces that got this label. Either way, I think that the Palace of Pena is worth a visit and lives up to the hype. You definitely need to book your ticket online in advance. Note that all tickets for Sintra palaces are given a time slot, so make sure to respect that. After visiting the Pena Palace in the morning, you can stop at the snack bar or downstairs in the restaurant just inside the palace to get lunch. After that, you can head towards the second palace that I recommend visiting in Sintra, which is the Park and Palace of Montserrat. Montserrat is a bit further away from the town, but it is worth the trip as it has one of the most gorgeous gardens I've seen around a palace. I recommend following the path through the garden that will take you through all its corners before arriving at the palace. The garden is famous for its collection of exotic plants which were sourced from every corner of the world. The romantic architecture completes this palace and gives it its magical vibe that will transport you into different times. Going to Sintra is possible by car, but take note that the roads are narrow and parking might be an issue there, depending of course on the time of the day and the season. So my recommendation is to simply visit Sintra by train from the center of Lisbon and then take local public buses to reach the different palaces, and you can pay directly to the driver. However, there is also a hop-on, hop-off bus that you can get in Sintra that takes you to all the different palaces. They run a bit better and faster than the local buses, and you only have to pay once, and you can then use them all day if you keep your receipt. But remember that these are private buses and they're a bit more expensive. If you want to add another day to your itinerary in Lisbon, I recommend spending another day in Sintra since there is so much more to see. For the 5th day in Lisbon, I recommend another day trip. This is a day trip to Cascais, the crown of the Portuguese Riviera, and then a visit to Cabo de Roca, the westernmost point in continental Europe. Cabo de Roca is only 40 kilometers northwest of Lisbon, and it's easily accessible by car or public bus from Sintra. You should come prepared as this is a very windy coastline, but it's all worth it when you get to see the views from this spot. Wow, that was a long itinerary, and I really tried to keep it short while providing some tips and info about the locations. I think that overall this is a pretty balanced, although busy, itinerary for 5 days in Lisbon. Now, if you're wondering how many days you need in Lisbon to visit it all, then the answer is probably at least a week if you want to explore all the main tourist attractions in the city. However, this 5-day Lisbon itinerary, in which I packed all the essential part of Lisbon and day trips, I think you'll personally love, and it will make you want to see more of Portugal. If you are wondering what to see in Portugal in just a few days, then you need to know that Portugal is a small country. However, it is packed with gorgeous spots, towns and cities, architectural gems and historical spots. So if you only have a few days, less than a week, then you might not see much if you get busy traveling from one place to another. So instead of spending too much time in a car or a train, spend those few days you have in Portugal, in Lisbon or around, to really get the essence of Lisbon. Sure, you will need more time in Portugal if you want to see more of the country, but these few days in Lisbon will surely leave you wanting for more. I hope this guide was useful to help you plan your trip to Lisbon. If you liked it, please leave me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content from Europe and from my travels. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.